Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the podcast. We are happy to be recording once again after a little bit of a break from the podcast because of some travel, because of a great event that we were able to be a part of. We're going to share about some of that on this episode, and we are grateful to each and every one of you that listen to our podcast and that share it with any friends or family that you think might be interested in it or maybe even benefit from it. And we're always encouraged when we hear from you, whether that's in our Q&A box on our website or in the comment section on YouTube. And if you are watching us on YouTube, we would love it if you're able to subscribe to our channel or hit the like button. Like I said, leave a comment. That helps our podcast reach more people and helps us continue to do this and continue to record the podcast, which we enjoy. And if you listen to our podcast on Spotify or iTunes or really any platform, if you're able to leave a rating or a review, that also very much helps our podcast. And thank you so much to those of you that have already taken the time to do that. That means means a lot to us. We're really appreciative of that. So with that, let's get this thing rolling.
The Now That We're a Family podcast.
Aren't the fall colors beautiful? I feel like they are leaving us quickly, but they're just so beautiful right now, and I'm just loving them.
Yeah, that was tough because a couple weeks ago we left on our trip, and the fall colors were just starting to set in. And it was a bittersweet because we were thrilled about the trip back to the Northeast, but I was kind of reluctant because I knew that the colors were going to be amazing here. And sure enough, I mean, we came back to amazing colors, but I feel like we are kind of on the tail end of them. The leaves they're falling rapidly.
Yeah, it happened so fast. Anyways, this might be the last episode we're able to record outside. I hope we're able to go a little bit longer, but the camera batteries die when it gets too cold. And this morning we woke up to thick frost on the ground. The kids were like, there's frost. And it was pretty fun to see. And I'm just so grateful for our wood stove and our tent right now because it keeps that thing cozy when it is cold outside.
Yeah, it's so warm and cozy in there all night long. I'm grateful for that. And then all day long. Now, it used to be, I say used, like for the latter part of September into early October, we would just run the wood stove during the night, and then we wouldn't need it during the day. But at least the last few days, we've been running that thing 24/7 for the sake of having a warm spot for the kiddos.
Yeah, we have indoor fires, outdoor fires, just fires all over the place right now. Okay, so is this episode, I meant to get with you before we did it. Is it kind of like where we've been and where we're going?
Sure, yeah. We can do a quick life update. Some of you asked, are we going to just one episode a week? Because, as I mentioned, we were on a trip, and we were only able to batch enough episodes to post one episode a week while we were gone for those 2 weeks. But we are going to go back to our 2 episodes per week schedule, which we're happy about. I like being able to do that. Especially, we're excited about some interviews we have lined up, and that makes the 2 episodes a week even more enjoyable to us because Katie and I get to talk with each other once a week, then we get to hear from someone else once a week. I think that's our favorite rhythm.
Yeah, that's initially why we went to 2 a week, is we're like, oh, we'll do an interview. And then we had to stop interviews for the most part. We had a few good ones. We had to stop them for the most part during the summer months while we just found our rhythm out here in the tent. It was too hard to schedule interviews with the lighting and the children and everything all at the same time. But I feel like we figured that out.
Yep.
I should say Elisha's figured that out. And so we're excited to dive back into interviews because that was initially why we were going to 2 episodes. So yes, we aren't cutting back to 1. I was very grateful that Elisha was willing to cut back to 1 so we didn't have to batch. Because you say we didn't have time to batch, but we all know that you have the time to do what you value.
Sure.
And so I didn't want to make the time to batch 2 more episodes. I just felt like we were going full steam ahead into this trip. And so it was a really big blessing that we were able to just do a couple and then come back. And it feels really refreshing to be back here on the podcast after a 2-week break because we've just been going hard all summer, I feel like. And sometimes when you talk so much, you get sick of hearing yourself talk. And you're like,
no
I'm
doubt.
sure everybody else is sick of hearing me talk too. And like, it was just a really refreshing break to not have to be podcasting and feel energy coming back.
Yeah, not only was it a break from podcasting and listening to our own voices, but at the event we went to, the Wellness Collective in Pennsylvania, we were able to meet just, I mean, I don't know, hundreds, it felt like, of listeners.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most, I don't know, invigorating. One of the most invigorating parts of that trip was being able to get face to face with so many of our listeners and to hear their stories, hear about their families, hear about the things that they're passionate about and the ways that they're growing. Because like I said, we're grateful when we get to hear from you, online. And that is a blessing for sure, being able to hear from people. But man, being able to talk with people face to face, just hear what the Lord's teaching them in their marriages and in their homes. I just came away so inspired and so optimistic, and it made me want to keep doing this because some of the people, you even shared that the Lord's used our podcast to inspire change in your home for the better, and that's just crazy humbling to hear because I feel like this podcast has been a blessing to Katie and I, and that we're able to talk through many things that are helpful to our home and to our walks with the Lord. And so to hear that it's helping others is really humbling, and it's extremely motivating to continue seeking the Lord in this pursuit, to do it as unto Him, and to, just to be obedient as we see that meaning in regards to this podcast.
Yeah, so it's funny. So the last couple weeks, we went to the East Coast. Elisha mentioned it was to speak at this event, and we agreed to that in January?
Yep.
And we're like, yeah, that's plenty of time. But then as the time's approaching, Elisha and I haven't done keynote speeches on stage before. We have delivered a lot of network marketing presentations together. That's been like our experience with slides and standing up and all that. And so I think we were both kind of like, okay, we really want to do this. We're excited to do this. It's going to feel totally different than the podcast. How's that going to feel? And we had so much fun doing it.
Oh,
like being up on stage, seeing a live audience. I didn't know how that was going to be when, we're just used to talking to cameras. I am. Elisha's been used to emceeing events for years and years. So he's been up on stage a lot. And performing, but that hasn't been my experience. But it was so fun to see faces in the audience. And I think after doing that for a couple days, we were on a high for
No doubt.
This is awesome. Like actually being able to talk to people after you say what you think instead of sending it off into cyberspace and hoping that it comes across well.
Right, getting that immediate feedback.
Yeah, it was just so encouraging. And we were like, this is so much fun. Like, why haven't we been speaking together? This is a blast. And then after a couple weeks, so our children were there at the event. We were able to get help with childcare. Elisha was kind of on and off duty with the children, and I just stayed off duty because it wasn't very helpful when I went out and tried to take care of the children. They just all of a sudden realized that their shoe was uncomfortable,
right.
and they were a little too warm and all that. They didn't really notice that when Daddy was out there with them or someone else. And so I feel like we just went on this kind of roller coaster ride of talking through, is this something that we should be pursuing more of? It seems like it's so beneficial. People loved the event. It was just a world-class event with the creators that put it on. And then it was so fun for us to do. And I think after 2 weeks, because we stayed back there and ended up visiting with friends and doing touristy stuff in Lancaster, and I feel like the Lord just really brought us full circle to no, the whole reason why you have something to share in the first place is because you're living the life I've called you to live, which is not traveling. It's being true to our values and the biblical hierarchy of what we feel the Lord is calling us to, which is not dragging our kids around the country while we speak at events. That just would be unaligned with where our family is at this stage in life and chasing this feeling or this high or this excitement of in-person connection instead of hey, just be faithful to where I've called you to and raise your children. That's what you're called to do right now.
Yeah, it was quite the roller coaster, like you said. And huge shout out to Claudia, Clarita, Roseanne, right?
Rosanna.
The founders of the Wellness Collective, and they put it on to this day. It
was Roseanne.
Is it Roseanne?
Oh, Rosanna. I'm so sorry. I'm totally blanking now.
But I will say it was just a phenomenal event, like from every detail. I mean, the venue was breathtaking. I've never been to a nicer, more, I don't know, glorious venue in my life. It was the Star Barn, for those of you that have been to it in Pennsylvania. It's incredible. The food, who they had catering, even the vendor hall, and they were very selective on who they had come into the vendor hall, the stage, everything. Just a world-class event. So that was inspiring and really fun to be a part of. It felt like a total privilege to be a part of it. And then, as you said, Katie, it sent us into this world, because I think our mindset going into the trip was, this is a really fun, unique experience. It's not what we usually do. It's out of the ordinary. We have said no to a handful of speaking offers. This was one of the rare ones that we thought would be a win for our family because of where it was located. We knew we would want to take our family to Lancaster County and to tour around different parts of that area. And so that was a win. They were very accommodating to our family needs as far as housing, flights, just extremely generous and really accommodating our family. And so all those, and amongst other things, like we just also stand by the event, and all those obvious things. And so that was kind of the reason in us saying yes to this event when we've said no to speaking engagements in the past.
We've said no to a lot, actually. It's just like, no, that's not what we do. We don't travel places in person. Like, that's not what we do.
Yeah, and so starting out on the trip, that was our mindset. We thought this is a fun family trip. We get to go, and we're doing it because we got invited to go to this event, and then we'll come back home to our normal life. And then we get to the event, we have our session, we speak, you get that immediate feedback, you see, I don't know, people's responses, you see the impact, and you really start to reconsider like what
your values.
All your values. You're like, wait a second, the kids seemed to do pretty good, like on this trip. Like they could probably do this the rest of the year. We could do this, 50 times a year, and they would be able to live through it. And like, man, it's so worth it because we care so much about home and family and inspiring marriages and couples to get on the same page when it comes to the practical functions of the home. And yeah, it was just the classic, like, talk yourself into something and compromising, but like trying to numb your conscience to the fact that you're compromising just a little bit. Okay, real quick, if you're looking for music lessons for your family, piano lessons, guitar lessons, fiddle lessons, ukulele lessons, mandolin lessons, you can subscribe to Voteberg Music Academy and get lessons for the whole family. Subscribe to the piano course, one subscription, get you piano lessons for the whole family. Subscribe to guitar, that gets you guitar lessons for the whole family. We'll link it below. You get a special discount, and you can see that below by listening to our podcast. That's how you get the discount. Go check it out. Right? Because I think when we think of compromise, we think, at least for me, like temptation in general, you think like, oh, it's so obvious. It'll be so obvious when I'm compromising. Like I will, neglect my marriage and neglect my children in a very tangible way that most people would acknowledge as, neglecting them for the sake of some personal, I guess, pursuit. And of course that does happen from time to time, and it's sad, but that's usually not the temptation. The temptation is when 99% of the people in the world would affirm you in what you're doing and the compromise you're making. And you're able to then affirm yourself and say, and you have that confirmation bias, and you're like, no, our kids are going to be fine. Like we have way more impact going and speaking. And I think just countless Christian mothers and fathers make that compromise every day, whether it's a mother feeling that she's going to have more impact out in the workplace than at home and saying, my kids are going to be fine. Like this is just a small season. Or a dad taking a promotion that's going to take him further and further away from the home, more travel, and he's going to miss more and more family dinners and family Bible times. And he's saying, well, look at the impact I'm having out in the workplace. Or maybe it's a ministry opportunity, right? Volunteering for a ministry that your church, I guess runs. And so it's in the name of Christianity, or it's in the name, even like for us, how crazy is that? It would have been in the name of family, doing more speaking or writing on the subject. And what was the first thing that was going to suffer for that was our family. It's just insane.
Yeah. So anyways, that was a whole process. that we went through that, I mean, it's like neither here nor there for you guys. Honestly, I don't know why we're telling you.
I don't think
it's
it is
tempting.
It is, because we've gotten that question many times. Say, hey, how do I know how to manage, ministry opportunities and my family? And I think that what we're so currently seeing is that the lie is that this opportunity is just now. We got to strike while the iron's hot, or you have all the giftings for this, job position. Like, you need to strike while the iron's hot. And in reality, our children's childhood is the only thing that we know is a finite season. It is a season that is going to pass. And ministry opportunities, work opportunities, career advancements, impact outside of your home, those opportunities never go away. Maybe the specific one goes away, but there's only more where that came from. There's not more where your children came from. It's like your children are your children, and their childhood is their childhood. And if you do it well, the Lord tells us we get to then have our children's children be, our crown of glory, and we get to enjoy them in our later years. And so I do think it's relevant, because I had a long conversation with my sister Lydia about this, with some things that she stepped away from for the exact same reason. They were things that were objectively good, like impactful, like just, the number of people that were like devastated when, she decided to walk away from this thing was countless, as far as, the messages and all that stuff. And yet she knew, no, my family, I'm not going to sacrifice my family, my children, their childhood, their marriage, for this other thing. And it's just really, I think, challenging to do when you're in the midst of it. Like, it's really hard to have that clarity. Yeah,
it's hard to say no to things that are objectively very good.
Yeah.
And because I think we were able to say, this is objectively very good. The Lord's hand certainly must be in it.
Yep.
But sometimes I think that's how we're presented with temptation is, yes, this is very good, but is it what I've actually called you to? And so anyways, it did feel really good to, do that whole mental gymnastics thing, really seek the Lord, pray, be like, Lord, where are you leading us? What are you calling us to? And just come back to like, okay, it's our marriage. It's growing roots in this season. And obviously we're documenting growing those roots. We are talking you guys through the process, but we aren't teaching as authoritarians or authorities in that process right now. And we're just too young for that. And what's funny though, is that if you're available, people will hire you to do that.
That's right.
Because there are so few voices in just different areas. And so it's like, oh, wow, you're a voice in family? Like, great. We want to hear from you. And it's like, no, this isn't the time. Like,
nope.
It was for this one event. I feel like the Lord really opened all the doors. We were so glad to be a part of it. But it's not the time to really do that more than what we're currently doing, which is just like, hey, guys, come along on the journey, see the mistakes we're making, see what we're learning in the process. And what I'm looking forward to doing more of is learning from other experts again.
Yes. Yeah. And like you said, this event was objectively a win for our family, and it was great. And it I think gave us kind of a filter to use going forward for other opportunities. It's not that we're never going to say yes to an invitation, but it's going to be like a very refined and, I guess, large filter, or a very specific filter that we're able to run it through and be like, no, this is a win for our family first and foremost, for our marriage. And then, yes, are we able to be a blessing to others? Well, great, let's do it. And so I do see that happening again in our future. But like you said, putting more eggs in that basket or leaning into that more and more, because things like this only beget more opportunity, right? Offers and just requests. And the more you lean into that, the more opportunities you're going to have. And like you said, it's just so obvious to me and to you that that's not the right season for, like, we are too young. If we heard about us, we'd be like, they're probably a little too young to be in that position of speaking in authority. And I know that, like we know it, and yet the need's there. You feel like, well,
I think that's the hard thing. The need's there.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, well, who is going to go do this, fill this need?
Yep.
I guess we need to fill the need because there's no one else.
Yes.
There are other people around, obviously, but there's not a ton of people that are speaking to family and doing it well. So we do know of a few ministries. We're going to continue to point people there. And, it's just like, you know what? The Lord is going to do his work in his way through whoever he chooses to use. And that's not us right now in that season. Yep. But something I was really worried about coming home was we spent all this time in these Airbnbs, right? Traveling around to a few different Airbnbs. And I was like, I looked at the weather when we were coming home and I was like, how is this going to be coming back to the tent? Like, just on a very practical note. I was like, it's probably going to be a huge adjustment. And then we pulled up to the tent. It just felt like home.
Oh, yeah.
We were so excited to be here. And we pulled up. A gnarly rainstorm blew in a few hours later.
Yeah, we didn't pull up to picture perfect weather. Rain is still our least favorite weather so far to endure here at the tent, and that's what it was doing when we got here, and yet we loved it. We were just so happy to be back home, and the kids just instantly found they got the kittens, we got our dog back. We're just back into the flow of
I was
life
worried
here.
about that too, because we've been without animals, and we've been living with animals on top of us in this tent.
Yeah.
I was like, it's going to be wet and rainy and hyper dog and kittens all over. And it was just like so awesome coming back. First of all, our dog was like super chill, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up a lot in 2 weeks. And then the kittens were just so sweet. And the kids were just like, oh, like our 5-year-old he's just singing a little song to the kittens about how much he's missed them and how the kittens have missed him. And it's just like so sweet to see the connection through that. I was actually thinking just how I do think that we haven't been like real animal-y people at all. I mean, I'd say we were anti-animals.
Yeah, I'm far from being. I still am not an animal person.
It's true. We're our animal person.
Yeah, I'm very partial to and biased towards my animals. And the other thing is, the reason I think I'm able to embrace them out here on the property is because our whole life facilitates it. Meaning, like how we eat, how we dress, what we do as for activities are all very animal-friendly activities and scenarios. Whereas even when we had our puppy back when we were living in town, and I would have on more like town clothes or whatever business casual type attire on, like I don't want the dog touching me or him getting any slobber on me. It just kind of feels nasty, and you don't want to get all dirty. Out here, it's like we're wearing Carhartts and jeans every day, and it's and you're just equipped for it, and so you're able to embrace it.
That's true. And now he's not jumping up on us and stuff like that.
Yes,
so
he
it's
is
a lot better.
Better trained. Yeah.
But I do think, it's funny. I was just thinking that the whole animal concept is like, I think we really miss out on how you experience more life when you're married. Like you experience a different type of life, and there's more aspects, more facets of life open up when you get married versus when you're single. Then you have children, and then you experience life in a whole new way. And then I feel like that happens with animals, actually, as silly as it sounds, not to the same degree, but you experience a whole different set of connection and emotions and feelings and stuff. And so I'm like, I am really glad our kids have this. So anyways, all that said, it was really fun coming home to the cold weather. The kids immediately were just stoked. They were just thrilled to be back in the tent. I didn't know how that was going to go. We were thrilled to be back in the tent. We were just like, wow, can't believe we get to live this life. It's beautiful. And so anyways, that was a smooth adjustment coming back.
Yeah, which was a gift, because like you said, I wasn't sure if the kids getting used to warm showers and nice sheets on their beds was gonna be hard to come away from, and it's been the total opposite. I think we were like longing for this. We were like, no, we belong at the tent. That's home for sure. And we are looking forward to to our barn being complete. And that was fun to come home and see progress on the build. Be like, sweet, stuff's happening there. To see that visual, I guess, progress. And it's funny because as we were coming back and we were considering, we had kind of gone full circle, like you said, from do we want to do more, family ministry type things, and then by the time we were home, we were like, man, we want to pour into our family. Like, yeah, we want to do more family ministry, our family ministry. Like, and we knew what that meant for us. It was leaning more into me doing more and more and more of bearing the weight of the financial provision, you being able to pour more into the home, into the children's education. Like, it was, we knew exactly what it meant when we came full circle, I guess realization. But then I think it was the next day I was driving, and I was listening to NPR, as I do. And I forget if it was, Fresh Air or whatever, All Things Considered. I can't remember what the show was. But they were interviewing a gal who had written a book about her parents, who were both it was an actor and an actress. Her parents were, and I literally got like 7 minutes of the interview, so I've got like I've got little context. I don't even know who the names were or anything like that. But I come into the interview, and she was saying like, yeah, I was so inspired by my mom when I saw the sacrifice she made when my dad got sick. Because, her dad was apparently an actor, and then he got sick. He was bedridden. And she goes, my mom put her life completely on hold to take care of my dad and us at home. And I kept going, and then she continued going on. She goes, because she, had a thriving career going at the time. And she put her life on hold, put her career, implying like her career, and went to serve her husband and her father. And it was crazy timing, because I just been reading a book about the virtue of taking care of your family. And that's a part of God's design. And that like is the highest calling in life here on earth, is to take care of your mother, your father, your spouse, your children. And yet it rolled off the tongue so naturally. She put her life on hold to take care of my father and to take care of us children. And how common that sentiment is towards family, and how you're putting your life on hold when you go to take care of your children and your spouse or your grandparents, whatever it is. And like I said, when they say we're putting our life on hold, they're usually referring to a career, right? An advancement, or maybe like travel. You were going to travel the world, but you put that on hold. Your dreams were put on hold for the sake of taking care of your family. And I was like, that is insane when you look at the high calling that family is, and the position that we have as mothers and fathers. If that isn't life, then I don't know what is. So whatever you're putting on hold by pouring into your, ailing spouse or your needy children while they're at home, like whatever it is you're putting on hold is not your life. It is something that is so, I guess, second rate and second class to the calling of family. And yet, like I said, it's become so common in our culture to just to believe that language, even amongst Christians. To be like, okay, well, we can put this on hold for the sake. You and I maybe have even been guilty of using language like that, where it's like, well, we'll put those dreams on hold, or we'll put our life on hold for a second for the sake of our children here, pouring into our children, versus seeing them for what it is. And it's the highest expression of life that God's given us here on earth. We know that Christ is our life, because Colossians says, when Christ, who is our life, appears, we shall appear with him in glory. But in that life, he's ordained it so that the primary relationships, the primary efforts and energies that we express here on earth, or that we put forth here on earth, are to be towards the family first and foremost. And from that, other ministry and occupational advancements do come. But it was just a crazy full circle moment for me to hear somebody say that in such a casual way, because that's how we use it here in this culture. You put your life on hold to pour into your marriage. You put your life on hold to pour into your children. It's like, what? No, that is that's not at all putting your life on hold. That is maximizing your life when you're doing that.
Yeah, you're so right. I didn't actually know you heard that story.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't shared that with you.
Yeah, that's interesting. So all that said, we do feel like very called just back to our home, and also very called back to like home is where we are. We spoke at the Wellness Collective about being your dream home, which you guys have heard here on the podcast, and just breaking that down. And it's something that I really feel when we got back to the tent, I was like, are we going to still feel this way? I felt that way when we left.
Yes.
But it's funny, since being here and just being like, no, like I love our spaces better than anything else. And what's funny is it does make me even more excited for our building to be done, which is exciting. And however long that takes is how long that takes. But it's like, because it can just be more of our own space. Right now we have the tent, and it's like, I love our little Norman Rockwell plates, and I love our books, and I love, the puzzles that we are putting together, and just little things like that. And so it's really fun to think, oh, we're going to have this again to even a bigger extent than what we have it now. It doesn't make me discontent in this season, but it makes me look forward with anticipation and also really appreciate the space, because no matter how many Airbnbs I went into, I don't feel as home or at home as I did here, where we have like zero comforts aside from the fire, which you do feel like the fire is just like candy though. Yeah. I miss wood burning fireplaces so much when we were traveling. Fall is here. A lot of us are kicking into new systems and routines, and the Get It All Done Club is for the woman who wants to stop drowning in motherhood and wants to start thriving. If you want to have more free time to do the things that you love to do and become more efficient at the tasks that you have to do each day, join the Get It All Done Club. There's thousands of women who have been through the program and who are currently in our private community that is off of social media. I'm in there monthly, live, answering your questions, talking with you guys, adding new content monthly. If you would like to get a little taste of what I teach in the Get It All Done Club and see a behind the scenes of what the program actually looks like, I do have a free masterclass for you guys. It's linked down below, and it will teach you how to have a more peacefully productive home this week. That is just, something the kids miss too. So anyways, in other news, we at the Wellness Collective, we launched the pre-sale for our physical print magazine. And I'm excited to tell you guys about that, because this is something that we've wanted to do for a while. I really wanted to do it for a really long time, and you have too. But
yeah, it was one of those things that was hard to envision when it would be a good time to fit into our life, and I think when we started realizing that it was an awesome way to, to go deeper into the things that we actually care more about, rather than take away from the things we care more about, then it felt like the right time to launch it. And I think that actually is a good kind of litmus test. Yeah, that's the word, right? Litmus. Sorry, lipness. Yeah, what did I say?
I think it's a T, but
litmus. Yeah, litmus test.
I've never used the word, so I'm just correcting you.
It's not lips. It's not a lipness. It's a litmus test.
It's a different kind of test.
And so will this actually help us do more of what is better for our family, or is it going to take away from that? And I think that's why it stayed on the back burner, because it would have been a takeaway,
for like a couple years.
For a couple years. And then because of a couple things, one, I think hiring Jenny's been a huge win. Being able to really figure out the physical products over at VMA has really made us a lot more confident that we can do, physical products now just in general. And so that's been helpful. Another thing is that writing for you and me is something that is life-giving to both of us and extremely healthy for our home, meaning it's actually, it gives life, and it's so far from taking away from our home. You and I both love getting up early, writing. It clears our head. It helps us process, our thoughts, and it inspires us to learn more things. Writing makes me want to read more, and then reading makes me want to write more, right? It's this fun cycle. And that's going to be obviously the primary, medium in the magazine is print. Obviously we want to have some photography in there as well, but it's mostly going to be text. And so when we are able to discover some kind of the hurdles and systems around them, we're like, this is so what we want to do. It's the next now that we're a family venture.
Yeah, so we're excited about that, and it's one of those things where it's I really don't the goal is for the magazine cost to cover the cost of creating itself. It's definitely a hobby project for us, because it's been one of those things where it's I just want people who love to read like me to have something that they can read and physically hold in their hands that we've created as a family resource to encourage families, so that if they want to take a break from going online, say on the Sabbath or on, in an evening or something, there's something where they're still encouraged and inspired. And obviously books are great for that too, but I really enjoyed magazines over the years. And so it's something that I'm looking forward to. We have gone back and forth on writing blogs or something like that. But again, you have to pull out your computer to read something like that, or your phone. And we just wanted something that was totally not attached digitally to anything, for just a break from the digital world, but to still be encouraged. So a question that we've gotten asked quite a bit just in the last couple of weeks is this just going to be you guys? And no, we're going to actually have quite a few other contributors. So I'm really excited about that. We reached out to some incredible people that are going to be writing, and I'm not giving away names yet. We aren't doing that. at this point, so you just have to take our word for it that you're going to appreciate what they write. But I'm excited for that too, because just like the podcast where I feel like we're able to learn from other voices, we want the magazine to be that way too. We don't just want a regurgitation of what we share here. We want it to be fresh thoughts from other people that we really admire. And then also we are going to be writing it ourselves too. So anyways, that I will leave a link down below for that. We aren't doing like a magazine by magazine purchase. We're committing to 4 like a quarterly release next year. And we are, because the baby is born in January and hopefully that all goes well, we're giving ourselves some time to release the first one in March, but we're running the pre-sale now just so we kind of know what to expect in terms of how big of a deal it's going to be to ship stuff out and stuff like that. So there is a special price for that. This isn't like the cheapest magazine in the world. It's ad-free, and it's just going to be, it's just an experiment for us. And again, we're doing the 4 episodes, or 4, what do you call it?
Issues,
all at once. So you either like sign on for next year or you don't sign on for next year.
You purchase them all at once, but then you get them each quarter. You get one per quarter.
And that's just what we're doing to simplify things, again, so that we can know what to expect. This is a new thing for us. And we're really just committing to 1 year. Seeing how it goes. 4 issues.
But I'm really excited about it for our own personal reasons. We love writing. We love the idea of being able to have this for ourselves. But it's been so fun getting the positive feedback from everybody we've asked to be a contributing writer and how not just willing, but like excited they are to be able to contribute. And so, we started by asking people that we really want to hear from. You know, it's kind of like, wow, like we really want to hear your thoughts and align with you on different issues. And so it's really, I guess, encouraging and exciting to be able to offer that to whoever our readership is. And like you said, it's an additional product that I've really become more and more in tune to my own how I react to different taking information in different mediums. Okay, like audio versus audio and video, or reading a book versus reading a blog, or reading a magazine like you said versus reading an online article, and why all those things are helpful to me in different ways. They all they're not all the same in how they help me, and so it's fun to think about offering, like you said, this thing that doesn't require technology for people to consume, right? Like they're able to just have it ideally sitting on their coffee table to reference, if they feel like they need a break from technology, something their children to flip through, that's not being on a screen. That's what's crazy too. Just the difference of me picking up a magazine in the living room when the kids are all around, or picking up a book versus being on my computer. Their attitudes are so different.
Well, they don't come buzzing around you like flies to honey. They just keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah. And so we've seen that. I mean, just literally an hour ago, here I was working on my computer. Well, actually, you guys were all playing, building a puzzle, and I was getting cold outside. I come inside to the tent to keep working on my computer. And of course, everybody steps away from the puzzle versus last night. Like, you guys were working on the same puzzle. What is that? 1,000 piece? What is it?
It's 500 pieces, okay. But it feels like a lot when you have 7 and under helping
you. Yeah. So you guys were working on the same puzzle last night, and I come in and I play my guitar for like 20 minutes, and then I pick up a book, and nobody came away from the puzzle while I was doing that.
Yeah. That's so true.
And so it's cool to be able to think about offering those different things that we've seen firsthand being helpful in different scenarios and different situations.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. We'll share more, obviously, as it gets closer to time and stuff like that. But I wanted to let you guys know because it is out there currently. And if you guys have, just, because you're our podcast listeners and we liked to know what you want to hear. If you guys have anything specific that you're like, oh, I would really love to read about this topic. I mean, we have a list of like 50 topics that we are excited to share about, but to help us prioritize, if you want to let us know someone who you would love to contribute over the next year, if there's a topic that you'd really love to hear about, let us know. If you feel like there's something that'd be really encouraging to your husband or to your wife or to your children, it's going to facilitate families. So there's going to be home management things, marriage things, fatherhood, leadership, things, health. There's going to be topics for just kids, for them to enjoy and read through, for the singles and teens in your family to enjoy. So it really is going to be there's going to be something for everybody in the home to enjoy picking up. And it is all going to be totally G-rated too. I just want to say that, because obviously this podcast, sometimes people say, oh, we played in our car with our kids. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't think of that when I speak on this podcast. I don't feel like I'm not trying to be edgy or anything like that either, but I do feel like I'm speaking to adults and married couples.
Sure.
Here in the podcast. That's who I'm talking to, and you get to choose as a parent if you'd like your 14-year-old to hear or not, know. And our content matter. But the magazine is going to be we want it to be something that you just display wherever, and anyone can pick it up and just be encouraged.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, there's not going to be any
Don't say anything right now. Yeah. They're probably listening to this with their kids.
So anyways, very excited about that.
Yes.
And as I already mentioned at the beginning of this, thank you all so much for the kind words while we've been on this break. Some of you were asking where the weekly email was.
A lot of people were asking where the weekly email was. Top 5 Tuesday. That is the first merch I want to get. And we just haven't gotten into that whole thing. But I'm I want Top 5 Tuesday merch.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of email.
So yeah, we took a break from Top 5 Tuesday for 2 weeks. Those of you that are podcast listeners know that we went to 1 episode a week. So we are going to be back to our normal content schedule. Top 5 Tuesday will be coming out hopefully on Tuesdays coming forward. I really put that out any day of the week. I feel like putting it out on.
It's supposed to go out on Tuesday, but
yeah.
He never writes an apology either, or acknowledges that it's Top 5 Wednesday or Top 5 Thursday. It's just kind of well, you got it. I feel like people are just grateful it came out at all.
Well, I don't know. I always want to get it out on Tuesday, but just sometimes it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But that's going to be back to our normal schedule. And I do want to, if you're not subscribed to Top 5 Tuesday, we are going to be adding more and more photos to the weekly email, because there are so many fun things that are happening in our life right now that we don't have an opportunity to share. Like the progress of our build, right? It's it's
Are you
just
gonna
so
put
fun.
that out in Top
Some of
5
those
Tuesday?
photos, yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I thought we weren't going to show any pictures.
Well, the progress of the build. Top 5 Tuesday listeners. Well, maybe not. We'll talk about this after that.
You guys are very lucky.
But the one
readers.
I just sent out today, I included a few photos from our trip.
Yes.
Right? It's fun to be able to share those. I think, travel photos. And
it helps us remember to take out our point and shoot camera and actually point and shoot.
Yeah, exactly. It's more accountability for us, because we brought this camera on our trip because we knew we were going to go to some touristy places, and we just wanted to document some of the things, and we are so bad at doing that. You forget until you get to a place and everybody there has their phone out and they're taking photos, and you're like, oh man, where's our camera?
Send it to me.
yeah, exactly. You're going and making friends with people so they can email you a photo. And so we are going to be documenting more of our life here at the tent with that camera, and just sharing a few photos here and there on Top 5 Tuesday.
What is nice though is the photos we get. I feel like we got maybe 5 or 6 photos of that trip. And each one is a real gem. It's oh man, those are the kids in the airport. That is so special.
Yeah.
And it goes in an album instead of taking 300 photos and never referencing them again. It's we print them out and we have them, and each one is special. And I do feel I love to back up our life decisions.
Let's hear it. Let's hear why this is a win.
Well, no, I really do. It simplifies the decision making, and then we actually use the photos.
Right.
I have literally thousands of photos on Google Drive or iCloud or wherever they are from all my phones. And it's I never look at those photos. But since having, the last 3 years, having our point and shoot camera, those I put in albums.
Right.
And I look at those all the time.
Yep.
And it's are you going to look at 200 photos of a trip or 5? Sometimes
right.
that helps. So anyways, yeah.
Anyway, so I feel like this episode was just kind of a catch you all up to date. We're back home. We got back 2 days ago, I guess now. Yeah. We love being back here on the property.
I have one more piece of advice.
Okay, let's go. Advice? Okay.
No. This whole episode has been an episode on advice. Haven't you guys noticed? No, one more thing to mention of note. I'm in our 3rd trimester now.
Whoa, you're kidding.
With our baby.
No way.
So I feel like that's fun.
That's a great thing to say.
Yeah.
Well, but I feel like we need to do a whole other episode like on a third trimester update, okay?
Yeah, okay. Let's just like save that one.
Yeah, no, you should. I'd love to hear because, I mean, a few things of travel, sleeping in the tent. I'm sure there are some interesting things. I mean, I'm interested every time you tell me about how this has been a bit of a different pregnancy to other ones. I think a lot of it's because of our living circumstances. But yeah, that
we
deserves
are
its own.
grateful to have made it here. It's one of those things where in pregnancies past, I'm always like, oh my goodness, here we go. We're counting down. Let's go. The longest we've made it is 39 weeks, which felt like forever. So this time I'm planning on going full term because waiting, I felt like I was overdue and I was only 39 weeks.
Right.
We both felt like we were overdue. Anyways, and so that said though, it's like, okay, we have literally 3 months. And then I look at our barn, I'm like, this thing is beautiful. And I'm like doing the math on everything that needs to happen. I'm like, we are so going to be in this tent having our baby.
Yeah.
So anyways, I don't know what to expect. I feel like we need every last week to be able to get this thing completed. Because right now there's a lot of holes.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about like construction or architecture or anything like that, but that roof looks very leaky. It doesn't look very rain resistant at this point.
Or even we walked through our downstairs and that was really leaky too. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's looking awesome though.
It is. Excited. We're happy with how it's looking. It's just, it's an adventure. So you kind of like want that to go. I want the pregnancy to go fast because I don't love being pregnant, and the third trimester isn't like a super fun trimester. But then looking at the barn, I'm like, it's okay. I'll just keep growing and growing and growing. I'll take every week I can get.
Nice.
So, okay, that's it. That's all I have to share.
Awesome. Folks, thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.